I'm a healthcare worker at a long-term care facility, and I've been doing night shifts for over 2 years now. I've seen some weird stuff, but nothing compares to what happened a few nights ago. I don't know what it was, but I'm still not sure how to explain it. It was around 2:59 a.m. when I heard the call bell from room 12B. Now, it's not unusual for patients to ring their call bells, but this one was different. The elderly lady in that room, Mrs. Hall, had been bedridden for weeks and hadn't said much. So when I entered her room, I was expecting her to ask for more blankets or help with something. But instead, she was staring at the bathroom door. "Can you get rid of him?" she said in a weak voice. I asked her what she meant, and she pointed shakily toward the bathroom. "There's a man in there. He's tall, with no face. Can you get him out?" Now, I thought she was just confused, maybe seeing things due to the medication she was on, or perhaps sleep-deprived. But the look on her face wasn't one of confusion. It was pure terror. I told her not to worry, that it was probably just her imagination, and I assured her that I'd checked the bathroom. There was nothing there. Just a regular, empty bathroom with nothing out of place. I told Mrs. Hall that everything was fine, that the man was gone. She relaxed a little, but the look on her face was still one of fear. I went back to my desk, shaking it off. Then, 10 minutes later, it happened again. This time, it was on the other end of the hall. Room 16. A's call bell rang. I walked down to check on Mr. Peters, another long-term patient who'd been there for ages. When I opened the door, he was sitting up in his bed, staring wide-eyed at the corner of the room. His eyes locked onto mine, and he whispered, "There's a man with no face standing in the corner. He's been there since dinner. I don't know what to do." I froze for a moment. I wasn't sure if I was hearing him right. A faceless man. I didn't know what was going on, but I stayed calm, telling him I'd check the room. Again, nothing was there, but Mr. Peters wouldn't stop staring at the corner, and his face had gone as pale as a ghost. At this point, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. Maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe they were both seeing things, but I couldn't ignore the eerie similarities between their stories. I called in one of the other nurses to stay with me for the rest of the shift. I couldn't be alone after hearing that. As we sat together in the nurses' station, we could hear more calls coming in, but I didn't hear any more about the faceless figure. It was as if they'd just stopped. It felt like the whole floor was holding its breath. But the worst part? The next morning, as I was leaving, I overheard one of the doctors talking about a strange phenomenon that had been happening with some of the patients recently. They said that some patients, especially those who were nearing the end of their lives, had started seeing things, shadowy figures or strange people standing in the corners of their rooms. They'd dismiss it as stress or hallucinations, but I wasn't so sure anymore. It's been a few days since that night, but I can't get it out of my head. A few others have mentioned strange occurrences on their shifts too, things that just don't feel right. Maybe it's exhaustion or the late night hours, but the more I think about it, the more I feel like something's out there, something we can't see, and I swear to God, I'll never be the same. I still can't sleep after what happened. I'm writing this to get it off my chest, though part of me wonders if it was all in my head. I wish I could say it was a normal wedding, but this wasn't. It was my cousin Sarah's wedding. She'd been dating this guy, Josh, for about a year before they decided to get married. They had known each other for a long time, and everyone said it was perfect, but I hadn't met Josh until that day. I thought, hey, why not? Weddings are always a good time, even if you're just there for the food and a few drinks. Josh walked down the aisle first, tall, athletic build, dark hair neatly combed. He looked normal for the most part. But when he stood at the altar, waiting for Sarah, I noticed something strange. His eyes, he wasn't blinking. It was like he was trying to keep them open as wide as possible, staring intensely at the front of the church. His pupils were so dilated, it almost looked like he wasn't seeing anything. When Sarah walked down the aisle, I figured it was just wedding nerves, but the way he looked at her, it wasn't like a happy groom seeing his bride. It was more like he was studying her. His eyes never left her, and his lips twitched into the faintest smile, but it wasn't a joyful smile. It felt predatory. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe I was overthinking it, but it bothered me. During the ceremony, everything went as usual, until the vows. Sarah said hers, and when it came time for Josh to speak, he just stared at her. No words. He didn't even nod. The officiant asked if he took Sarah as his wife, and Josh just stood there. For what felt like forever, he didn't say a word. Finally, the officiant asked again, and Josh nodded. Just once. His eyes never left Sarah. After they were pronounced husband and wife, they kissed, and I thought I could relax. But that's when I noticed him. Josh's cousin, Luke. He was across the room, watching me, and not just glancing over occasionally, but staring. Every time I turned around, I felt his eyes on me, studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Luke wasn't just another guest. He was positioned near the back of the room, but his eyes never seemed to leave me. I thought it was just in my head, but the more I tried to ignore it, the worse it got. Luke's gaze felt heavy, almost like he was trying to read my every thought. After dinner, I got up for a moment to get some fresh air. As soon as I stepped outside, I saw Luke standing by the door, just waiting. His eyes locked onto mine immediately, and he stepped toward me. "You look like someone I used to know," he said, his voice low. I didn't know what he meant. "Who?" I asked, confused. He just smiled, his expression tight, almost strained. "It doesn't matter." I stood there for a moment, trying to shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in my stomach. But as soon as I returned to the reception, I saw Luke again, this time watching me from across the room, his eyes fixed on me like a hawk. I tried to focus on the music and the conversation, but every time I looked up, his stare was still there, unwavering, intense. It wasn't until later in the evening that things really started to spiral. I excused myself to the bathroom, desperate for a break from the strange tension in the air. As I washed my hands, I caught something in the reflection of the mirror. My heart sank. There, standing just behind me in the doorway, was Luke. He was smiling. That same tight, unsettling smile, his pale eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time, I noticed something in the reflection that sent a cold shiver down my spine. Luke's eyes weren't just staring at me. They were too focused, like they were drilling into me, seeing something I wasn't supposed to be aware of. "Luke, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't respond immediately. He just stood there, watching. His face was still, and that smile never faded. "You shouldn't be here," he finally said, his voice almost a whisper. I tried to move past him, but as I turned to leave, he stepped closer. His breath was cold against my neck, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. When I looked up at the mirror again, something had changed. Luke's face didn't look like it belonged on his body. His features were distorted, as if his skin was pulling in unnatural directions, shifting slightly. I spun around, trying to back away, but Luke was already gone. The bathroom door clicked shut behind him as I stood frozen in place. My heart raced as I rushed out of the bathroom, desperate to find Sarah. I told her we needed to leave, but she brushed me off like I was overreacting. "Matt, stop it," she said, laughing. "Luke's just a little socially awkward. He doesn't mean anything by it," but I didn't feel safe anymore. I kept looking for Luke in the crowd, but it was like he'd disappeared. I was on edge the whole night, but I couldn't find him again. The next morning, I woke up feeling strange. I couldn't shake the sensation that something had shifted. I went to the bathroom to splash some water on my face, and when I looked in the mirror, my stomach dropped. Something wasn't right. My face was different. It was subtle, but it was there. My eyes seemed wider, and my cheekbones looked more pronounced, like the skin on my face had stretched tighter than it should have. I touched my face, and it felt wrong, like the skin wasn't mine. The worst part? When I smiled, it felt like my face didn't quite fit together anymore. Like the skin was loose, stretching and pulling in places it shouldn't. And the more I smiled, the more it felt like I was holding myself together. Like if I didn't, my face would fall apart. I don't know what Luke did to me that night. I don't know how, but I feel like I'm changing. And I'm afraid I won't be able to stop it. I don't know how to explain this, but I'm pretty sure I'm being haunted. It's not something that happens often, but it has been recurring for generations. And the weirdest part? It always happens in the same room. I'm 12, and it started when I was playing on my trampoline in the backyard. It was a normal afternoon. The sun was shining, and I was having a blast bouncing around. I looked up toward the house and saw something that made me freeze. At the bathroom window, there was a woman in a white dress, waving at me. I figured it was my mom. She has this habit of watching me from the window when she's at home. But when I went inside, the house was completely empty. My mom wasn't home. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe I'd imagined it, right? Kids see things all the time, especially when they're outside in the sun. But when my mom got back a little later, I told her what happened. The minute I mentioned it, her face went pale. She didn't say anything at first. But then she quietly told me that when she was younger, she saw the exact same thing. A woman in a white dress, waving from that same bathroom window. She said she saw it twice when she was a kid. The first time she thought it was just a trick of the light. The second time, she was so freaked out that she told her mom about it. Her mom, my grandmother, had also seen the same thing when she was younger. The woman, dressed in white, just standing there, waving as if she knew them. I asked my mom what the woman looked like. She said she couldn't quite remember, but she was sure it was the same one every time. She described her as having long, dark hair and a dress that seemed to shimmer, even in the daylight. The weirdest part? I still live in that room, the same one where I saw her. Every time I go in there, I can't shake the feeling that someone's watching me. I'm not scared, but there's this unsettling presence, like the air is heavier, almost thicker. Sometimes when I look out the bathroom window, I catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. I never see the woman clearly anymore, but I swear I can feel her there, just on the other side of the glass. And the oddest thing? When I look directly at the window, it's just a regular reflection of the bathroom. But I know what I saw that day. I don't know if this is all just in my head or if it's some weird family thing. But 3 generations of us have seen this woman. It's not like we talk about it all the time, but when it comes up, everyone just goes quiet. No one has a real explanation. My mom said she used to think it was an optical illusion, but now, I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just some weird family coincidence. Maybe it's all just a trick of the light. But I can't help but wonder if there's more to this. The fact that my grandmother, mom, and now me have all seen the same thing, same window, same woman in white, makes me think there's something more to it. I don't know how long I'll be living in that room, but every day, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched from that bathroom window. I wasn't planning on writing this down, but it's been eating at me. I just can't shake it. It happened late last week, on a quiet evening after I finished my shift. I was driving home, a few beers in, just trying to make it through the long stretch of highway to my apartment. I stopped at the gas station on the edge of town, the one that's mostly empty after sundown. I was the only car there, just me and the buzzing of the overhead lights. The air felt thick, humid, even though it hadn't rained in days. But that wasn't what got to me. No, it was the man. I didn't see him right away. I was too busy pumping gas, wiping the windshield, just trying to stay awake. But when I turned to head inside, I saw him standing in the shadowed corner by the payphones, barely visible except for the faint glow of the neon lights from inside. His face was half hidden, but I could see the uneven rise and fall of his chest like he was breathing harder than he should have been. The way he stood there, stiff and motionless, it was like he was waiting for something, or someone. I was half distracted, thinking about getting a cold soda when I heard him speak. His voice was low, rasping, like it hadn't been used in a long time. "Hey," he said. I looked over, startled. He wasn't close, but I could tell he'd been standing there for a while. He didn't seem to belong in a place like this, too out of place, like a shadow I couldn't quite see. His clothes were worn down, faded, like he'd been on the road for weeks without rest. "Yeah?" I said. but my voice felt small all of a sudden. He took a step forward, his eyes heavy and searching. "What's your name?" It wasn't like he was asking casually. It was more like he needed to know, like I was someone he recognized but couldn't quite place. I wanted to laugh it off, tell him I was just a random guy stopping for gas, but I felt this weird pressure in the air, like the night was holding its breath, waiting for me to answer. "My name?" I said, stalling. I wasn't sure why, but the question felt important, like if I didn't say it right, something would happen, something I wouldn't be able to stop. "Yeah," he said, taking another step closer, his eyes fixed on me. His voice was soft but demanding. "Say it." I should have been freaked out, should have walked away, but I was just tired. "So," I answered. My name came out before I could stop it. He smiled then, but it wasn't a smile that made me feel better. It was the kind of smile you see on someone who knows something you don't, the kind that makes your skin crawl. He nodded, like I'd said the right thing, and then, as quickly as he'd spoken, he turned around and walked into the darkness near the dumpsters. I watched him go, wondering if I should have said something else, but I told myself it was just some weirdo. The whole trip home, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something had changed, but I couldn't figure out what it was. My name didn't feel like mine anymore, but it wasn't until I got to bed that I really started to feel it. That night, I dreamt I was standing in the same gas station parking lot. The car was still parked, the lights still buzzing. But this time the air was colder, and there was no sound, just this thick silence. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. Then I heard it. That voice, low and raspy, just like the man's. "Say your name," he said. I froze. It was the same question. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. It was like my mouth was full of sand, like I couldn't form the words. I felt my throat tightening, but still, I heard him. "Say it," he repeated, the words cutting through me like cold water. I finally whispered it. My name. But as soon as I said it, it felt wrong, like the syllables didn't fit together, like they didn't belong to me. And that's when I saw him again, standing in the shadows, smiling, his eyes gleaming in the darkness. And then I woke up. My heart was pounding, the sweat on my skin cold as ice. I was still in my bed, but the feeling didn't leave me. That man's voice was still in my head, echoing, "Say your name." The next day, nothing happened. I went to work, had lunch, went through the motions like normal. But when I looked in the mirror that night, I felt it again. A tightness, like my reflection didn't match my body, like it was just a little off. I tried to write my name down, just to make sure it was still mine, but the pen slipped and the ink blurred. It didn't look like my handwriting. For a second, it didn't look like my name at all. And the worst part? Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. That voice, soft and patient. "Say it again."